What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is New Year's Day, so hopefully everybody out there had a very safe and responsible New Year's Eve, and hopefully you're not hungover today, but if you are, pull up and join me for a beer review. So the beer I'm reviewing today is actually a different vintage of a beer that I reviewed on this day back in 2019. It comes from the Anchor Brewing Company, and they're out of San Francisco, California, and this is their Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, our special ale, the 2021 release. So they're calling this one an ale with natural flavors, comes in at 7% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed, time of review. This bottle is just over 3 months old. So I reviewed the 2018 release of this on New Year's Day of 2019, and it had been like a good 5 years since I've drank that beer, and it was quite tasty. And a lot of viewers wanted me to review the 2020 release last year, but unfortunately my channel went on a hiatus in late November, and I never got a chance to do it, so I thought we'd review it this year. So they release this one every year, and they always change up the recipe. They slightly tweak it, and they always have a different tree on the label. This year they have the Western Joshua tree. They have a little spiel on here that I might read at the end if I remember. If not, no big deal. It's kind of hard to read because I have to keep on turning the bottle. It's not on, like, up and down. It's not vertical. It's horizontal, and how to read it. So I don't like that. That's not ideal. But anyway, let's give this a pour, crack it open, and see what we got going on. So, like I said, 3 years to the day that I reviewed the 2018 vintage. So I can't wait to see what this one's all about. Every year they change it a little bit. It does say ale with natural flavors, whatever that means. I'm pretty sure they use spices in this one. I don't know what else they use, but anyway, I'm going to use the Dogfish Head glass. This is the same glass that I used back in 2019 to review the 2018. So we're going to keep it consistent here. We might have some dirty glass mafia. Who knows? We'll see. Pour the entire thing in because it will easily fit in here. Oh, hang on. Generate a big head. But yeah, should fit the entire thing in there. So that, oh, I can smell it. I smell it. It smells awesome. So the one thing about this beer, it wasn't as, I think this is darker than in the 2018 release. This has cola vibes to me. It has this really super dark brown kind of body on camera. Always pitch black when I say that, but down here it has like a ruby red, almost mahogany tinge to it, or like lighter brown. Definitely looks cola-esque. The only difference is the head is sticking around. That's about a 1.5 finger straight on, light brown colored, very creamy looking. But yeah, that looks more like, if you told me this was a porter or stout, I'd believe you. But it's just a winter warmer, basically. Let's get a nose. Oh. So I told a story. If you want to go and check the 2018 release of this that I reviewed in 2019, basically I tell you the whole backstory about this beer, but I will summarize it like this. I had this beer for the first time back, I think, in 2010. And when I had this one, it was so pine forward. It was like drinking a pine tree. And that's why I didn't try it for a couple of years. I think I tried it again in 2013-14. It was much better. And the 2018 was really good. So I'm not getting that here in the nose. It has a lot of like darker sugars to me. Like dark brown sugar, molasses, a lot of sweet malt character. There's a little bit of like an allspice, I would say, spiciness-wise. There's definitely pine, like a pine sap kind of essence to it. Earthy vibes. Yeah, there's chocolate, like a dark chocolate, like a sweeter dark chocolate. There's also, and I think I got this in the 2018, but there's like a slight like jammy, like raspberry, boysenberry, something like that in the nose. Definitely berry-esque. Yeah, it smells really good. It smells so different, though, because I've reviewed quite a few winter warmers this year and Christmas beers, and they're popping with different spices. You're getting cinnamon and nutmeg and all these different things going on, vanilla, so on and so forth. Where this one, I don't know what they're brewing with, but this is different. I'm getting, like I said, a jammy berry note, a lot of dark chocolate and sweeter dark sugars. Then there's a little bit of that pine. It's almost like a black IPA meets a winter warmer, meets a stout. It's just, it's a different vibe for sure. It smells really good, though. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Happy New Year. Oh. Man, is that good. So yeah, I know why when I first tried this, it's the first time I had this back in 2010, that was like the first year I got into craft beer was like late 2009, early 2010. So I think I tried this in later 2010. I think it was when it came out in 2010, like in October, November. And my palate was not acclimated to pine. I didn't really like IPAs, so West Coast IPAs and all the IPAs back then had a lot of pine, so I stayed away from them. When I had this one, I was like, oh my God, it's like licking a pine tree. But now drinking it, it has like a nice nuance of pine, but definitely not leading the way. Body in this one, 7%, medium, touch over, perfect. It has a little bit of heft behind it, which makes it a perfect, holiday beer. The mouthfeel has a lot of carbonation, but it's really smooth on the palate. It's creamy to some extent. You just look at the lacing and whatnot. That head, yeah, it's definitely creamy. Right up front, a lot of dark chocolate. It's not necessarily sweet. It's more like a bittering, like cocoa powder, baker's chocolate. Hits me right at the forefront, a little bit of like a roasted malt quality coffee kind of hits. So this, based on the looks and like what I'm tasting right now, definitely has porter stout-esque vibes. But right after that, I am hit with a nice blast of like a molasses, but then it turns into like a slight tart, jammy raspberry. That's like what I'm getting. I would say raspberry more than boysenberry or like blueberry or something. It's more of like a red berry, and I would say raspberry. Then middle of the palate is where a touch of like a allspice hits, like a spiciness, maybe a cinnamon. And then on the finish, I'm hit with that piney blast. And it's not like punching me in the face with pine. It's not overwhelming the palate. It's just, like I said, a nuance of pine, but it's very noticeable because it's on the finish for me. The finish is semi-dry with a mild to moderate bitterness. All those sweet malt characters up front are beautiful. They're dancing on the tongue. They're hitting your palate, and you're like, man, this is really nice. And then that bitterness creeps in on the finish, and so does the moderate like dryness. And you're like, I want to go back for another sip. So I do. Wow. I don't know what it is. This is pretty much the last holiday beer I'm reviewing this year. Typically, I start reviewing holiday beers beginning of December and throughout the month, and then like on New Year's Day, I'll review something like this, and that'll be it for the holiday beers. Not that there's like a rule or something on my channel where I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. I've reviewed pumpkin beers before in November and December. I've reviewed holiday beers, in January and February. But for me, I kind of stop buying them and stop seeking them out and just stop in general reviewing them once the new year hits. And I think I ended with a bang here because this is really tasty. Is it amazing? Depends. Stylistically, as far as like a winter warmer goes or a holiday ale, this is up there. It's a really good beer. Overall, though, it's still a damn good beer. So I have no problems giving the Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, our special ale from Anchor, the 2021 release. That, my friends, is going to get a straight on 4.25 out of 5. Really good beer. I think I gave the one in 2018 maybe like a 4, or 2018 a high 4 maybe, or a 4. Maybe I gave it a 4.25. I don't remember. I think I'm liking this one more than the 2018 release. Yeah, it just has a lot of beautiful flavors. It's not overly complex, but it's complex enough to really, catch my attention. And then at the same time, it's just super drinkable, 7%. You can't even tell. It's just really nice. I will read the spiel. Who cares if this is a long review? You either watch it or you don't. You can turn off here. You just know that it's a 4.25 out of 5. But it says, this is the 47th Our Special Ale from the brewers at Anchor. This ale, made with natural flavors, features a new recipe and tree every year, but the intent with which we offer it is the same joy of celebration of the newness of life. Trees symbolize the winter solstice when the earth, with its seasons, appears born anew. The natural beauty of the California high desert is epitomized by the western Joshua tree. Threatened primarily by climate change, it is a candidate for protection under the California Endangered Species Act. So pretty cool. Like I said, every year they change up the label. This year it's the Western Joshua tree, and they change up the recipe. So definitely different from when I first had it back in 2010. Certainly different from the 2018, although I probably should go back and look at that review, see what I said. Maybe it's similar, but they tweak it every year. They tweak it slightly. Yeah, price point availability, I think these were 13 or 14 bucks a six-pack on my neck of the woods for something that's 7% and change, and is a natural flavor, but just something that invokes the holiday spirit. I think for like $2.25 or like $2.50 a bottle, yeah, all day, every day. And availability, wherever you see Anchor, you should see this one. We do not get a lot of Anchor stuff anymore here in the Western New York area. Typically see the steam beer, sometimes the porter, sometimes, some of their other beers. It's very hit or miss with this brewery, but every year we get this beer and it's awesome. And I hope it continues because I think it's gonna be a New Year's Day tradition for me to review this one every year. And I think it's worth reviewing it every year because they change the recipe. A lot of times people review different vintages and releases of beers where it's just the same beer, just a different year. And yeah, there can be batch variation and slight differences and whatnot. But this one, they actually actively change the recipe. So it is somewhat of a different beer every single year. So I think that's what I'm going to plan on going forward because I need to try this one and drink this one every year. From the label switching to the recipe and everything, the whole nine, I just want to. So if you've had this one before, let me know what you think about it. Again, a couple people out there I know have already said they had this one and it was really good this year, and you guys were not lying. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. I hope, like I said, everybody had a great holiday season, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, the whole nine. And here's to a hopefully much better 2022 for all of us. Cheers.